book of Genesis asks us to keep and till the natural world. And sadly, we've done a very good job tilling it, but not such a great job keeping it.
When creation suffers, it hurts most
The book of Genesis asks
Poor people
us
generally
to
have
keep
to depend
and
so
till the
much
natural
more
world. And
on
sadly,
the water, on the climate, because that's how they make their livings. They are very vulnerable to climate change. Think about farmers. If there is a 2 or 3 degrees increase in temperature, then people cannot grow the same thing in the same area. So the care for creation translates directly into the care for our brothers and sisters.
Laudato Si calls all of us to care for the natural world. Now the call and how we live it out depends on who we are. If we're a young person, it may mean something as simple as recycling or consuming less. If we're an adult, it may mean making decisions in our corporation and at our workplace that affect the environment in a more positive way, and especially making decisions that take into account the needs of the poor.
Caring for creation, it calls for a certain kind of a unity or reciprocal relationship between man and his environment. We receive the earth as a garden. It will be very unfair if we pass on the earth as a wilderness.
It's not about imagining a better world. It's about creating one. We don't just build shelters. We work with the world's poorest communities to create the homes and new beginnings they see for themselves. We're not here to change for the sake of changing things. We're here to walk with our brothers and sisters towards their vision for a better future. We're inspired by faith and motivated by the men and women we serve. The deeper the problem, the more we immerse ourselves. By working alongside people in communities, we hear their voices, we feel their passions. By building initiatives with church and local partners, we uncover insights into the change they want to see. No matter what it takes, at Catholic Relief Services, we are committed to creating the blueprints for sustainable, resilient futures. Over time, these changes transform not only communities, but also the way we work towards change going forward. It's not just a house, or a road, or a well that we're building. It's how homes lead to neighborhoods, wells lead to farms, farms lead to schools, schools lead to equality, innovation, and a better quality of life. These are the building blocks for a better world. We believe that every person in every corner of the world has something remarkable to offer. We believe that all people are created with dignity, that we all deserve a voice, a chance, a future, and that everything we do is an opportunity to be a catalyst for change, so that we leave behind resilient communities that continue to grow and thrive long after we are gone. It's not about imagining a better world, it's about creating one. At CRS, that's what we do.
God created us as people to be sacred, to worship Him, but also to be social beings, to love and to live in community and care for one another. Family is really the first school of communications. It's really the first place that we learn to love, to be loved, to give of ourselves, so that we're prepared to go out into a community and to serve other people.
I see families and their role as central to the life of society. We're nurtured in family, we come to birth in family, we find our purpose in family.
Society really begins with marriage and family. If family is broken, if marriage is broken, if our relationships there at the most basic level are broken, society really can't function as it should, at the service of others, with love for others, with compassion for others.
Community is rooted in our faith. From the very beginning, God himself, who is community, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, at the core of the universe, is a relationship. It makes perfect sense that we as human beings were made to live in relationships rooted in love.
As parishes, we're called to engage in the community in which we live. We're not supposed to be bystanders or mere observers, but instead we're supposed to get in there and live and listen and love the people that God has placed around us.
Most of us are not happy to simply be acted on. We want to act for ourselves, we want to act for others. And so participation isn't just saying you get to vote, although it includes that. It's saying we will equip you, we will give you access to the resources and the opportunity you need so that not only can you occasionally say something, but that you can come in and have an impact in a situation.
Within our family, we've really tried to emphasize our own little domestic church as part of the broader church. It means taking what we learn as people of faith and then putting it into practice, going out into community and being Christ's hands and feet to those people that we see that are in need.
Subsidiarity is one of those great Catholic words. It comes from the root subsidium, help.
Subsidiarity is allowing the different levels of society to do the job for which they were made. It doesn't mean that occasionally, when those institutions can't do their job, that they get help from larger institutions. But fundamentally, it's a recognition that society is an organic reality with different levels of authority, from the individual to the nuclear family to the government, the church, that all of these have a role to play in making a healthy life together for all of us.
We can appreciate how we have to be involved at different levels, responding to different needs. Not experts coming from the outside, but neighbors helping one another.
At the heart of reality, we're all made social beings. There's a modern myth that says we're all just autonomous individuals. It's just not how we experience life. Who of us would want to live without friendship? That's the fullness of who we are, because it's in relationship we can live love. And when we live love, then we have the joy of the gospel. Individuals, it's just not how we
Sabi nila, ligtas ang may alam. Walang pinipili ang lindol. Lahat ay apektado. Alam mo bang mahigit 20 pagyanig ang nararanasan sa Pilipinas araw-araw? Ito ay dahil ang ating bansa ay matatagpuan sa Pacific Ring of Fire. Ang Pacific Ring of Fire ay isang lugar kung saan madalas ang paggalaw ng mga tectonic plates na siyang sanhi ng mga lindol. Bagamat mahihina lamang at kadalasan hindi nararamdaman, mahalagang maging alerto at handa. Maging ligtas. Alamin kung ano-ano ang mga panganib na maaaring maidulot ng lindol, kung paano makapaghanda sa The Big One, at aling mga hakbang ang dapat gawin habang lumilindol at pagkatapos ng lindol. Maraming panganib ang naidudulot ng isang lindol. Noong 1990, libo-libong katao ang namatay matapos tumama ang 7.8 magnitude earthquake sa Luzon. Nagdulot ang lindol na ito ng isang mahabang bitak sa lupa o ground rupture mula sa probinsya ng Aurora hanggang Nueva Vizcaya. Dahil sa tindi ng pagyanig, napakaraming gusali ang gumuho at landslides ang naitala sa Northern at Central Luzon. Sa probinsya ng Tarlac, Pangasinan at La Union, maraming naging ulat patungkol sa liquefaction. Isang lindol ang naging sanhi ng paglambot ng lupa na animoy nagbala tubig. Dahil dito, napakaraming infrastruktura ang tumagilid at lumubog. Maaari ring magdulot ng tsunami ang isang lindol. Noong 2004, isang 9.1 magnitude earthquake ang tumama sa bansang Indonesia na sinundan ng mga dambuhalang alon na kumitil sa buhay ng daan-daang tao at nagdulot ng labis na pinsala sa mga istruktura. Mga dapat gawin bago ang isang lindol. Malaking bagay ang paghahanda upang maiwasan at mabawasan ang pinsalang dulot ng isang lindol sa bawat pagyanig nito. Narito ang mga paghahandang maaaring gawin ng inyong pamilya. Kasama ang lahat ng miyembro ng inyong pamilya. Bumuo ng plano. Ilista ang bawat miyembro ng pamilya at emergency contacts. Iguhit ang evacuation routes. Siguruhing handa ang mga go bag. Sa inyong mga plano, isulat kung ilang babae, lalaki, bata, matatanda at mga taong may kapansanan ang nakatira sa bahay. Sa ganitong paraan, mapapadali ang pagbibilang at makasisiguro na walang maiiwan kapag kailangang lumikas. Alamin din anong maaaring maging epekto ng lindol sa inyong lugar at kabahayan. Magsagawa ng inspeksyon sa loob at labas ng bahay. Suriin kung matibay ang pagkakagawa nito at tignan mabuti kung may mga bantang panganib sa paligid. Alamin kung pasok ito sa safe engineering standards. Suriin din ang mga gamit sa loob ng bahay. Tiyaking maayos ang pagkakakabit sa kisame o dingding ng mga ilaw, ventilador, mga picture frame at iba pang gamit na nakasabit. Itago sa pinakamababang parte ng inyong instante ang mga babasagin, mga nakalalasong kemikal at mga bagay na madaling magliyab. Siguruhing walang nakaharang na gamit sa hagdanan, lalo na sa labasan o exit. Lagyan ng tornilyo o suporta ang mga aparador upang hindi ito matumba at maiwasang makadagan o makapang-ipit kapag may malakas na pagyanig. Ilagay sa mababang parte ng istante ang mga libro at mabibigat na bagay para hindi ito mahulog. Ilagay din sa ibabang parte ng cabinet ang mga babasagin, gaya ng mga pinggan. Maaaring lagyan ng glass protector ang mga salamin ng cabinet. Pwede ring ibalot ang mga babasagin ng tela at lagyan ng rubberized placemat ang bawat bahagdan ng cabinet. Ilagay ang mga mamahaling gamit gaya ng TV at computer sa mababang lugar. Tiyaking dekalidad ang paglalagyan upang hindi ito matumba tuwing may pagyanig. Maaaring lagyan ang mga malalaking gamit ng suporta tulad ng L-shaped metal, sapin o belt para hindi matumba. Ilak ang mga pinto ng inyong ref o lagyan ito ng fall prevention equipment upang hindi matapon ang mga pagkain at inumin na nasa loob. Mga dapat na gawain sa paghahanda sa lindol. Bilang gabay, ito ang maaaring sundin para hindi matutumba o masisira ang inyong mga kagamitan o magiging sanhi ng aksidente sa oras ng pagyanig. Una, ang mga mabibigat na bagay tulad ng telebisyon ay nararapat ilagay sa mga mababang lugar. Kailangan rin itong ikabit sa baba o sa pinagpapatungan nito. Pangalawa, para naman sa mga kasangkapan sa pader, tiyakin na matatag ang pagkakakabit nito upang hindi ito bumagsak at maging harang sa mga labasan. Lagyan ng harang ang mga pinto ng cabinet at ng fall prevention equipment ang refrigerator. Lagyan ng pangkalang at L-shaped metal ang mga malalaking gamit. Kung hindi maikabit sa patungan ang TV, maaaring lagyan nito ng sapin o belt. Lagyan naman ng shutter-proof film ang mga gamit na may salamin tulad ng aparador at cabinet upang maiwasan ang pagkalat ng mga bubog kung sakaling mabasag ito sa pagyanig. Ihanda ang sarili at mga kasama sa bahay. Alamin ang mga exit routes. Dapat alam ng bawat isa kung saan nakalagay at paano gamitin ang emergency items gaya ng fire extinguisher, first aid kits, alarm at mga gamit pang komunikasyon. Mas mainam kung may nakahandang emergency supply kit na naglalaman ng first aid kit, pagkain, tubig, damit at iba pang kakailanganin. Makilahok sa mga earthquake drill sa inyong komunidad. Mga dapat gawin habang nangyayari ang lindol. Habang kasalukuyang nararamdaman ang pagyanig, huminahon at manatiling kalmado lalo kung nasa loob ng bahay o gusali. Mag-duck, cover, and hold. Magtago sa ilalim ng isang matibay na mesa at hawakang maigi ang paanan nito. Kung walang matatagpo ang mesa sa madaling panahon, agarang takpan ang ulo at batok gamit ang mga kamay. Lumayo sa mga bintana o pintong babasagin, mga istante, cabinet at iba pang mabibigat na mga bagay. Maging alerto at mapagmasid kung may bumabagsak na bagay galing sa itaas. Maaaring tumagilid ang kabahayan o gusali at maging dahilan para hindi mabuksan ang pinto. Kung kaya, buksan ang pinto habang lumilindol upang kayo ay makalabas kaagad pagkatapos ng pagyanig. Kapag tumigil na ang lindol, tingnan ang mga lutuan at paligid nito kung mayroong pagdiyab na naganap. Maging mapagmasid habang patungo kayo sa ligtas na lugar. Lumayo sa mga puno, poste ng kuryente, pader at mga matatayog na istrukturang maaaring bumagsak o matumba. Hanggat maaari, lumayo sa gilid at talisdis ng mga bundok na posibleng gumuho. Kung kayo naman ay nasa tabing dagat, mabilis na lumikas at magtungo sa mataas na lugar. Tandaan na maaaring magdulot ng tsunami ang lindol, kaya mag-evacuate at lumayo ka agad sa dagat pagkatapos ng pagyanig. Kung nagkataong nagmamaneho o nasa loob kayo ng sasakyan at biglang lumindol, itabi at ihinto ang sasakyan. Tingnan kung may mga matatayog na gusali at puno sa paligid at sikaping lumayo sa mga ito. Huwag magtangkang tumawid sa tulay, overpass o flyover dahil pwede itong gumuho. Mga dapat gawin pagkatapos ng isang lindol. Pagkatapos ng pagyanig ay isipin at piliin ang pinakaligtas at pinakamabilis na daan palabas ng bahay o gusali. Maging handa sa mga aftershocks. Alalahanin na dapat manatiling kalmado, alerto at mapagmasid. Kung kayo naman ay papalabas ng isang gusali, huwag gumamit ng elevator at telepono maliban na kung kinakailangan. Kung kayo ay nakalabas na ng bahay o gusali, huwag nang mag-atubiling pumasok kung ito ay hindi naligtas dahil sa tinamong sira. Maging mapagmasid pagkatapos ng isang lindol. I-check ang sarili at mga kasama kung may mga tinamong sugat ang bawat isa. Tingnan ang kapaligiran. May natapon bang nakalalasong kemikal o madaling magliyab? Huwag lumapit o hawakan ng mga natapong kemikal para makaiwas sa posibleng aksidente. Kung may sunog, gumamit ng fire extinguisher upang patayin ito. Huwag kalimutang isara ang mga linya ng tubig at kuryente kung nasira ang mga ito. Kung kinakailangang lisanin ang tahanan, mag-iwan ng mensahe na nagsasaad kung saan ang inyong patutunguhan. Dalhin ang emergency supply kit at makinig sa mga anunsyo at babalag sa area. Laman ng isang emergency kit. Maging handa sa oras ng sakuna. Maghanda ng emergency supply kit o go bag at tiyaking sapat ang laman nito. Lagyan ang inyong mga go bag ng pagkain, tubig inumin, mga damit, kumot at banig, sabon, sipilyo, toothpaste, sanitary napkin, face mask at face shield at alcohol o sanitizer. Mahalaga ring may dalang flashlight, pito, lubid, can opener, radyo, baterya at power bank. Huwag kalimutang dalhin ang mga mahalagang dokumento tulad ng birth certificate, ID at marriage contract. Ligtas ang laging handa. Alamin, tandaan at sundin ang mga hakbang sa paghahanda.
Ang malakas na lindol ay isang natural na panganib na dapat nating paghandaan sa lahat ng panahon, may pandemya man o wala. Kaya ating alamin ang 6 na hakbang na dapat gawin habang may malakas na lindol sa panahon ng COVID-19. Sa panahon na nakaramdam ng pagyanig, tandaan natin na prioridad ang inyong kaligtasan.
Magandang araw sa lahat. I would like to recognize local government unit attendees, the academies and the students, non-government organization representatives, and everyone who are interested on our topic for today. Thank you for joining in today. This event was organized by Catholic Relief Services through Project SHAKE, supporting households and local government awareness and knowledge for earthquake preparedness. This is in collaboration with Office of Civil Defense National Capital Region. I am Benjamin Mendoza, your host for this morning. We welcome everyone who are joining with us here in Zoom, and we are also live streaming this in YouTube. To begin our session, may I request for a moment of silence for the opening prayer and the national anthem.
Our of truth. Our ever-loving Father, the core of every reason, the source of truth. You who made the earth and the heavens are the ultimate goal of every knowledge seekers. the infinite wisdom, the cause of all that is good. We are truly grateful for this opportunity to gather together as a community despite the challenges we face each day. Yet you remained and gave us strength to carry on the responsibilities of bearing intelligence and using them for better purposes. We now humbly ask you to join us in our endeavor to explore the wonders of life in the world for knowledge's sake, that in whatever we learn today, we become more grounded to you, who is truth, who is love. We pray that you bless our speakers, the fount of your infinite knowledge, that they can share something worthwhile despite the limited time we have. They can channel all they know and share to us the beauty and truth of living as your child. We pray that you guide our participants, the seekers of your boundless knowledge, that they may continue to persevere in the search and be deemed worthy to share what they learn from today's session. Sanctify us, O Lord, not because we are worthy of it, but because we believe in your love and mercy, that at the end of the day, we can take home something that's amazing and meaningful. This we ask and pray through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, pero sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa titik mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, kuyagan ang mahiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa nagatak tulog sa simoy at sa langit ang bagaw, ay hinatang tulang awit sa pagkayang minamahal. Ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nagtinig, ang pituloy na talakay ang nagtinig. Ang walang pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang hindi kaya ng pagkay mga amin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
Welcome to the second online learning event of Catholic Relief Services in collaboration with Office of Civil Defense, National Capital Region. In this learning event, we will give emphasis on the use and importance of maps and other digital tools in disaster risk reduction. This is to build more appreciation on how we use the information these tools can provide. Nowadays, there are already various digital tools and platforms that are already available and accessible to us, which all of this can provide disaster information, and that information could help us to make timely and accurate decisions. And in this morning, we will be joined by 4 resource speakers from different agencies and organizations to share digital tools that they are using and how this can be accessed by common users like us and every decision makers who are here with us today. And as we go along the program, we encourage everyone to share your thoughts and insights, and you can type them in the chat box. And for questions, you can post them in the Q&A box. The speaker may directly answer your questions, but of course, we will have an open forum at the end of all the presentations. And to formally open this webinar, I would like to call in Ms. Karen James Ungar, Country Representative of CRS. Ms. Karen has been the head of programs for CRS Philippines for 2 years before becoming the country representative. She's been with Asian Europe managing projects in emergency response, protection of displaced person, counter-trafficking, livelihoods, and partner capacity building for 7 years. Karen's experience in human rights and international development including managing the Domestic Violence Response Program of Catholic Caritas Oregon. And she is also working in a community development as a Peace Corps volunteer in Costa Rica. Good day, Karen. We are just fixing.
Good morning.
All
My name
right.
is Karen James.
There you go,
Umbar.
Karen.
I am the country representative for Catholic Relief Services Philippines. I am pleased to welcome you this morning for our online learning event on the use of maps and digital tools and platforms for disaster risk reduction. This online learning event is the second one conducted in partnership with the Office of Civil Defense National Capital Region. The webinar today is about the use of maps and digital tools for disaster risk reduction and preparedness. This aims to share the importance and usefulness of maps and various digital platforms to provide timely and accurate information in times of disaster. Today, we are joined by 4 research speakers. Two from national government agencies, the National Mapping and Resource Information Authority, or NAMRIA, as well as Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, PhilVox. There are 2 international organizations, Yayasan Peta Bencana and the regional representative of the humanitarian OpenStreet Mapping Team, Open Mapping Hub, Asia Pacific. Each speaker will introduce us to their organization and give an overview of the digital platforms that are accessible to the public and the local government. Overall, this learning event intends to promote map appreciation and to showcase the significance of participatory mapping and geospatial data that provide accurate information to reduce the impacts of disaster, offer efficient services, better planning, and disaster management. Participants are from local government units, government and non-government organizations, students and the academe, and communities that can contribute to open mapping applications and provide information in times of disaster. Thank you for your participation, and thanks to the Office of Civil Defense National Capital Region for joining Catholic Relief Services for the webinar today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Karen, for that very warm welcome message. And now I know that everyone of us is already excited with the discussion proper. So let me start with the first speaker. She is an information technology officer too, who has been with NAMRIA, or the National Mapping and Resource Information Agency, for 21 long years. She has an immense background and knowledge on geographic information science, remote sensing, and database management. And this morning, she will give us an overview on the use of and importance of maps and the different mapping services of NAMRIA. Please join me in welcoming Maria Paz Montano.
Hi, good morning. Naririnig niyo po ba ako ng clear?
Yes, ma'am, clear.
Okay. Thank you. So let me start my presentation. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, CRS, for inviting NAMRIA to participate in this online event. I am Maria Paz L. Montano. I am a information technology officer. I am a forester by profession and a GIS specialist. Before I discuss my assigned topic, please allow me to give a brief background on my agency, which is the National Mapping and Resource Information Authority, or NAMRIA. Ay, sorry. Hindi ko pa pala na-present yung screen ko. Sorry.
to everyone. We are just working on the technicalities with regards to the presentation, so please bear with us with just a quick or just a minute. Thank you.
Hi, good morning po ulit. Nakikita niyo na po yung screen ko?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can I now proceed? Sorry, di ko pala na-share kanina. Okay. So again, good morning everyone. Thank you CRS for inviting Maria to participate in this online event. My name is Maria Paz L. Montano. I'm an Information Technology Officer, a forester by profession, and a GIS specialist. Before I discuss my assigned topic, allow me to give a brief background of my agency, which is the National Mapping and Resource Information Authority. Sorry. I think I need to restart. Nagahang po yung PC ko. I need to restart.
Hi, Ma'am Paz. We have a background of backup of your presentation. Would you like us to present it on your behalf?
Okay. Ito na, malapit na ako.
Alright.
Nagbubukas na siya. Okay, so present. So are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, ma'am. It's
Nakikita
clear.
niyo na po. Okay. So, yun. Bigay ko muna yung background ng office namin. So, NAMRIA, by virtue of Executive Order 192 Series of 1987, was mandated to act as an agency of the Philippine government. An agency attached to the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DNR. It is mandated to serve the information and research needs of government offices and to extend its capability in the production of maps, charts, and similar photogrammetry and cartography materials. NAMRIA's vision is to become a center of excellence into geospatially powered Philippines by 2028. Our mission is to provide quality topographic maps, nautical charts, and other geospatial products and services in a timely and coordinated manner. The agency supports policy reform and organizational development, strategic human resource management, financial management and facilities and infrastructure management. NAMRIA's core functions are topographic base mapping, national geodetic network development, hydrographic and nautical charting, delineation boundaries, land resource assessment and mapping, and geospatial information management. NAMRIA produces topographic base map, thematic maps, administrative maps, nautical charts, and other maritime publications, geographic information systems, Philippine Geoportal, and technical publications. In terms of services, NAMRIA provides services relating to geodetic, topographic and photogrammetric, hydrographic and land classification surveys, thematic mapping, geomatics training, geospatial information services, and systems development and programming. NAMRIA is maintaining and trying hard to sustain the Geoportal Philippine platform or the Philippine Geoportal. The Geoportal Philippines is an online platform for sharing of geospatial information produced by government agencies or even national government agencies or even LGUs. It serves as an access point by the general public to geospatial information. Specifically, NAMRIA, as the central mapping agency of the government, advocates the use of common multi-scale base map. This means agencies and organizations need to build on their own data layers, or we call that as operational layers, based on the standard base map provided by NAMRIA. For example, with NAMRIA base map as the framework layer, PHIVOX, MGB, and PAG-ASA actively build the geohazard maps. DNR can other thematic maps on forestry, mines, and environment. LGUs can produce barangay and boundary maps. DOH can update their hospital and health center location maps. DPWH and DOTR can jointly update and produce road network maps. DepEd can overlay school locations, and the list goes on. So far, the Philippine Geoportal has 85 member agencies. So their logos are displayed on the screen. Out of these 85 stakeholders, 57 have contributed their data to the portal. As of November 30, 2021, 3,169 layers have been uploaded to the Philippine Geoportal, and 57 layers were linked via Web Map service. In the Web Map service, the agency does not need to physically provide the data to NAMRIA. The agency will simply need to provide the link to its portal for a portal-to-portal upload and publication. For those of you who wants to browse or is LGUs who wants to contribute their data to the portal, please visit www.geoportal.gov.ph. That's all for the background of NAMRIA, its products and services. Now let me proceed with my assigned topic, the uses of maps in disaster risk reduction and management, or DRRM. We use graphical symbols to represent ground surface features such as building, roads, and lighthouse on a map at their correct position at a reduced scale. So what maps can do? Maps communicate ideas better and foster understanding. An example on the screen shows about a voting precinct. A user of this map can investigate the relationship between ethnicity or people who belong to similar social group or cultural tradition and income to understand voting patterns. So, for example, this coming election, maintindihan natin kung yung mga taga-North, malaki yung makukuha boto ni Bongbong kung sa mga taga-North. Yun. Okay. So data comes in various forms and sources. Normalizing this data geographically and thematically presents a path is more discernible, especially to decision makers. Data that is presented through spreadsheet are now able to describe places, reveal patterns, present narratives, or even change by comparing maps of a specific section gathered in different time periods. The picture on the screen is a story about a world with many voices featuring endangered languages and cultural heritage. By the way, yung picture na yan is also indicated in the presentation. With maps, we can display dynamic information that changes over time. Example is, for example, the radar data of Pag-asa where tracks of incoming LPA or weather systems are being monitored. And we see these maps displayed in our TV screens and in our browser using an internet. Pag nanonood tayo ng kay Kuya Kim, yung ulat ng panahon, or kay Ani, so dinidisplay nila yung track ng typhoon. Adding millions and maps can help in finding patterns in mountains of data. So sobrang dami-dami mong point. So pag minap natin yan, adding millions and thousands of individual features or events helps a more picture to emerge, thereby revealing patterns. So may nakikita at makikita tayong pattern kapag yung mga individual points na yan or events ay plinat natin. Okay. So maps help you perform analysis. Example, yung crime map. By plotting the occurrence of this crime, we can ask why or what encourages these people to commit crime. Probably these places are not properly lighted or is located in areas where only few passerby use, creating a conducive situation where these people can perform crime without being detected. So kung ikaw yung taga-LGU at nakita mo yung, na-plot mo yung mga occurrence ng crimes na to at tinanong mo ang sarili mo about this, so ka ng paraan para ma-minimize yung crime. Maps can be used to compile data. So kahit na para sa akin kasi kahit anong data, you can use maps to compile that. So the map on the screen is a compilation of a 3D planted within the limits of the city proper. The uses of maps cited above were an example of modern-day maps that was made possible with the aid of technology. Looking back in times where technology is not yet advanced as it is now, and where paper or similar materials are the only materials available to document and present ideas or events, ang tinutukoy ko dito ay yung analog maps or printed maps. With maps, features of the Earth's surface are portrayed on a flat sheet of paper. You have to carefully select the feature to be included in the map. You may need to simplify the features that are too detailed or crowded, like built-up areas. So, minsan yung maraming bahay, nakikita mo na lang sa mapa is just a square or a polygon. And sometimes you have to exaggerate features small to represent and use symbols. However, analog maps has some disadvantages kasi it requires some level of interpretation. Diba? Dahil ginamitan nga lang siya ng simbolo, so you need to be familiar with the symbols that was used to represent those features. That's why it requires some level of interpretation. Out of date, because they have to be printed, therefore the date of publication is the latest date of accuracy. Okay? So, yung mapa, hawakan mo, kung that day na hawakan mo kaagad, nakita mo yon, na-interpret mo yon, so that day it is updated. So, kinabukasan, outdated na siya. Kasi, yung date of publication is the latest date of accuracy. And often static siya and in section specific. Diba? Hindi ka naman po pwedeng magpakita sa mapa ng buong place mo kasi wala ka na rin masyadong maintindihan because you have to simplify those features. So tatanggalin mo yung mga other detalye para mas maintindihan ng user. Analog maps are used to display data. It provides information that is directed for a specific use. So hindi po pwede na may land cover ka na, meron ka pang hazard map, lalo na parehas na makukulay yan. So you just have to use isa. So ang ipapakita ko ba sa mapa na to ay land cover lang or hazard data. Useful stores of data in the form of selected information about the map area. It shows boundaries of areas and land uses that cannot be discerned by merely surveying the landscape. Diba? So kung lalakarin mo yan, makikita mo lang yung nadadaanan mo. But in the map, you can show the whole picture of the area. Used to analyze information. So dati ang ginagawa natin ay we use the transparent overlays to discover relationship between two distributions of various objects or situation or resources. Diba yung mapa tapos merong screen na nasa ibabaw, parang transparent screen pa, ino-overlay natin sila para malaman yung relationship between two maps. Useful in determining and about changes in land use and zonation properties. So kanina, analog maps yon, ngayon let's go to the digital maps. So ang digital maps are similar naman to printed maps. But however, they are easier to update and quicker to access. Diba? Kasi nasa computers lang natin, nasa browser. And then even in our cell phones, maps that are seen online are often updated to regular updating. So kaya mas madali siyang it can produce quick maps. Digital maps can produce quick maps to visualize digital modeling or censuses. Yung production time and cost is dramatically reduced. However, nung time na hindi pa before the development of faster and more efficient computers, the cost of hardware to produce digitals was high. So, kaya naging yan before, but now hindi na masyado, di ba? Can be used in larger range of purposes. And then can be tailored to specific requirement of the user. And then can readily be used in applications. However, like the printed maps, digital maps has also its advantages. So kailangan mo kasi ng technology, so be it a computer that are capable of downloading information or simple presence of reliable internet access or electricity. So what if nandoon ka remote area? Or what if may nangyaring disaster event at wala ka doon sa electricity or internet. So, kaya nagiging disadvantage yung use ng digital maps. Pag nandun ka sa isolated areas. So, sa tingin ko, for me, kailangan yon may balance ng paggamit. Magkikip ka pa rin nung like yung printed maps and then digital maps. Okay? So, in reality, the picture on the left depicts the real world. But in a GIS world, the picture and the reality are divided into data slices. So we have the imagery, the elevation, transportation, addresses, boundaries, water features, yung survey ng cadastral, and then you can overlay your own data or your own thematic data. So ano ba yun? It is with the use of GIS. What is a Geographic Information System or a GIS? A GIS is a computer-based system including software, hardware, people, and geographic information that can create, edit, query, analyze, and display map information on the computer. So GIS is a technological field that incorporates geographical features with tabular data in order to map and assess real-world problems. In GIS, we build, create, analyze, and visualize information. GIS enables us to locate assets like water and water pipes, areas, example is the land use, incidents like crime statistics, and characteristics like disease mortality rates. GIS allows questions to be asked from the map side or from the database side because the map graphics and records are linked via a unique number. So in GIS, you are displaying a table, you can create a record to locate the map graphics. Kung nasa map display ka naman, like that in the picture, you can click a square there, and then the attributes will be revealed. So yun yung unique kay GIS na wala doon sa analog or plain digital map. For example, a parcel of land can be a map feature which carries a unique parcel number that is stored within the database record. The GIS keeps track of the relationships between the map feature and the database record, allowing the user to click on the map to get the data or click on the record to find the parcel on the map. GIS have 5 components: the hardware, the software, data, people, and methods. Hardware includes computers, mga computer natin, mga desktop, laptop, GPS units, the printers, plotters, and etc. Pwede rin mga cellphone natin, tablets. Okay. Software includes GIS software, yung QGIS, ArcGIS kapag may pambili ka, and then other GIS software available in the market. The database, pwedeng may SQL ka, meron kang MySQL, a Postgre, operating system, and the network. Application or method specifications, yung guidelines, yung standards. Diba? Importante yung, especially yung standards para madali yung integration. Procedures, criteria, or composite maps. The people in GIS are our LCEs, local executives, our administrators, the managers, yung GIS tech application developers, and the end users. So, tayong lahat yun, di ba? Tayo yung people. Data are vector data, like drawn in points, lines, and polygons. Ito yung sinasabi natin kanina na real-world features that is portrayed on the map using some symbol. Raster images, or yung imagery natin, it's like a picture, and attributes, example are name and age of a person. Because GIS is a system, absence of one component will result to a not being successfully implemented. So existence of every component is very crucial. Ano ba ibig kong sabihin doon? So for example, for the people, kapag walang support ng ang ating GIS project, kung walang support management, syempre hindi rin siya magiging successful. Data, kapag wala tayong data, like dahil hindi tayong producer at hindi tayo binigyan ng data, nung producer ng data, wala tayong copy noon, so di rin tayo makakapag-implement ng GIS project and so on. GIS has various applications, so it can be vegetation management, dam site location, mapping and navigation, and yes, disaster management, and etc. So GIS and urban planning enable spatial analysis and modeling, which can contribute to a variety of important urban planning tasks. These tasks include site selection, land suitability analysis, land use and transport modeling, the identification of planning action areas, and impact assessment. GIS is an integral part of automated field operation, also referred to as precision agriculture or satellite farming, using data collected from remote sensors and also from sensors mounted directly on farm machinery. Farmers have improved decision-making capabilities for planning their cultivation to maximize yields. GIS database marketing allows you to integrate demographic, geographic, purchasing, and spending characteristics into models that will accurately segment your customers. Farmers and resource managers also use satellite-based vegetation maps to help them monitor the health of our forests and croplands. On these maps, vegetation is pictured as a scale of greenness. Geographic or GIS are used to record information onto maps, but GPS and GIS are useful in managing land in hand country. Global Positioning System or GPS are used to find the exact location of things. Geographic Information System are used to record information to maps. And yes, disaster management. So we can also use GIS in disaster management sa apat na pillars ng DRRM. Okay. So according to Jack Dendermonde, the founder of ESRI, the application of GIS is limited only by the imagination of those who use it. Okay? So sabi ko nga, palagi kong sinasabi pag nagtuturo ako ng GIS na ang application ng GIS, pwede mo siyang on things as long as you can imagine it. So pag pumasok sa utak mo, you can apply GIS on it. Even sa gardening mo. Okay, sa mga plantitas na yun. Yun lang po, and maraming
Thank you very much, Ms. Kat, for the informative discussion. Now, each of us is already fueled up of excitement on the maps and its use. If you have any questions, please type all your questions and clarification in the Q&A box. And for those who are watching in YouTube, you can leave your questions in the comment box. For those who are having difficulty in logging in, you may watch it in YouTube Live. Look for Catholic Relief Services Philippines. For our next speaker, he is from another government agency. He is a science research specialist too in Geology and Geophysics Research and Development Division in the Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or as we are all familiar with, POST PHIVOLCS. His background is on data management, geospatial analysis and map making, hazard and disaster risk assessment and data analysis. He is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Geography from University of the Philippines in Diliman. Today, he will discuss about GeoRisk PH platforms and the tools GeoMapper PH. Let us all welcome Hans Alejandria.
Hello, good morning po. Ayan. So I'll share my screen. So confirm ko lang po if my slides are already visible po.
Yes, Hans.
Okay po. So thank you po. Thank you po for the introduction. Good morning po sa lahat. Magandang umaga. So thank you po to CRS for inviting us, for having us in your webinar. So this is an honor to be with you today to share about the GeoRisk Philippines initiative and the applications that were developed by the team that are available to you. And as Ma'am Paz highlighted kanina, yung how powerful geospatial data are in terms of analysis and data-informed decision-making. So, iba talaga kapag from your typical spreadsheets or Excel files ng pagkikip ng data, kapag pinlot natin siya sa map. So it opens another dimension for analysis. And so at the end of this presentation po, you will know about the available applications for you for hazards assessment, data collection, analysis, and data sharing. So this is all in support of data-informed decision-making and planning. So the vision of GeoRisk PH is to be the Philippines' central source of information for accurate and efficient hazards and risk assessment to help the government increase our resilience to natural hazards. So to be the central source of information, this means having a centralized database where government agencies, LGUs, and the public can share, manage, and access standardized hazards and exposure data, as well as information on vulnerability and coping capacity. So this is one of the first steps that we need to do when we want to perform analysis using data. So first, you collect the data and then you compile and organize them in a single repository or database. So you store them in one database so that the analysis would be easier and more efficient. When data are in silos or kung watak-watak yung sources ng data mo, it will be difficult for you to extract its value. And so we try to resolve these data silos. So given this, GeoRisk PH is a multi-agency initiative. So part of this initiative are several local government units and national government agencies such as NAMRIA, PAG-ASA, MGB, OCD, DICT, DepEd, and so on. These agencies and LGUs contribute their data to the GeoRisk system so that they would be readily available for assessments and analysis in platforms such as Hazard Hunter and GeoAnalytics. And so the information that they submit, that they contribute, follow standards. They are first cleansed, checked for topology errors. They are categorized and standardized. So part of the standards imposed is a 16-digit numeric code, geographic projection, and data protocols. So data protocols meaning the data sharing mechanisms and data security measures. So now that we have an integrated system, we are able to develop data analysis platforms such as Hazard Hunter, GeoAnalytics, and GeoMapper PH. So these are the platforms developed by the team that I would introduce to you. So for data collection and in building the National Exposure Database, we have here first GeoMapper PH. For risk analysis and visualization, we have GeoAnalytics PH. And then for multi-hazard assessment, we have Hazard Hunter PH. So this is probably the most well-known application for you, yung Hazard Hunter. So briefly, introduce ko lang siya for those who are not yet familiar. So its URL is hazardhunter.georisk.gov.ph, or you may simply search Hazard Hunter in Google and you will see it as the first result. So Hazard Hunter PH is the country's one-stop shop for hazard assessment. So this is an online platform that enables you to perform multi-hazard assessment. You could also monitor earthquake events and then download hazard maps in the application. So the Hazard Hunter uses the latest hazards information from the mandated agencies. So the assessment that you get, you are assured that it is up to date. And whether it be for work-related or for personal use, like knowing the hazards in your house, in your business, or if you're planning to buy a property, this will be useful for you. And as mentioned, Hazard Hunter can perform multi-hazard assessment using information from different agencies. So yung hazard data such as tsunami, flood, liquefaction, and landslide-prone areas. So nakamapa na yan, malalaman natin kung safe or prone ba yung lugar natin to these hazards. So after this webinar, if you haven't conducted hazard assessment yet in your area, we nire-recommend ko na mag-perform kayo ng hazard assessment, know the hazards in your area. And so aside from giving you the distance to the nearest active fault and nearest active volcano sa area nyo, it also calculates the distance to the nearest critical facilities and in other information like schools, health facilities, and by next year, we hope to add yung evacuation centers naman. And then you can download the summary assessment report in PDF format. So dito nakalagay na yung explanation and recommendation from the mandated agencies. So if you want to know ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng high susceptibility to flood, so nakalagay na yan dito. So pwede nyong basahin dito yung explanation and recommendation. And then you can also view the latest and past earthquake events via the Earthquake Monitoring tab. So this is updated as recorded by the Philippine Seismic Network. So kapag naka-on yung earthquake monitoring nyo dito, and then may bagong earthquake na detected ng Philippine Seismic Network, mag-a-alarm siya. So baka magulat kayo since naka-turn on by default yung new earthquake event alert. So may wang-wang na sound kapag may bagong plotted earthquake event. And then we also post the latest hazard information from other agencies. So for example, yung AI-generated flood hazard maps from DOST-ASTI. This was during the onslaught of the typhoons Ulysses and Rolly. So pwede nyong ma-view yun sa Hazard Hunter din, yung AI-generated maps. And then yung PDRA or Pre-Disaster Risk Assessment ng MGB, we also make it available sa application kapag meron. And then you may also download the Hazard Hunter mobile app if on your mobile devices. Okay po, so that's it for Hazard Hunter. We now move on to GeoMapper PH. So again, GeoMapper is the platform being used by partner agencies and LGUs to build their exposure databases. I will show a short video to introduce the application to you.
Imagine using a single platform to collect and access data whether you're in the office or out in the field. Well, imagine no more. Introducing GeoMapper PH. Collect data to populate the National Exposure Database with GeoMapper PH Exposure Data Mapper. Collect, report, and visualize disaster events using the GeoMapper PH Situation Data Mapper. With its integrated web and mobile application, you can easily update and manage your data with the greatest ease and maximum benefit. GeoMapper PH is easy to use and tailored to your mapping needs. It supports more informed decision-making and improves data accuracy. And of course, we care about your privacy. With GeoMapper PH, you are ensured that every information you input is securely added to the GeoRisk PH database. Let us help you enhance your productivity and make your field and mapping experience more efficient, whether you're online or offline. GeoMapper PH. Map anywhere, anytime.
Ayan, so I hope the audio was loud enough. Pwede nyo rin po panoorin sa YouTube channel ng GeoRisk yung video na yan. Ayan, so from the video, we can understand that GeoMapper is a platform to collect, to analyze, to access and visualize the data in the GeoRisk system. So unlike Hazard Hunter and GeoAnalytics, GeoMapper PH is for use by LGUs and national agencies. And only those with user credentials are able to use the application and access the data. So this ensures data security and accountability since dito nila i-edit yung data itself. And of course, this is given without any cost. So this is for free. to LGUs and NGAs. So GeoMapper is it's designed to empower NGAs and LGUs in data collection and visualization. So meron siyang two components. It has two components, namely the exposure data mapper and the situation data mapper. I will only show the exposure data mapper in this presentation. So the EDM or exposure data mapper is used to map information relevant to the mandate of the agency and LGUs. So mainly for LGUs, ito yung building footprints with their structural information. So this would be available for risk assessments or analysis platforms like REDAS. And then the situation data mapper, on the other hand, is designed to collect information on the impacts of hazards and disasters, and then dinidisplay siya sa isang dashboard. Okay, so it was also mentioned in the video that that GeoMapper PH is used to populate the National Exposure Database. So this is because the National Land Use Committee, which is led by NEDA, agreed that DOST would lead in the development of the National Exposure Database, and this would be done through GeoMapper. So GeoMapper may be used in your laptop or desktop as a web application, so browser-based, and you may also access the application in your mobile devices, such as smartphones and tablets, as a mobile app. So the advantage of using GeoMapper versus your usual desktop GIS application like ARC or QGIS is that it's a multi-user platform. So several users can access and edit the data simultaneously, and all the updates are reflected real-time sa platform, sa database. So the features that are created and edited by the users are tracked by the application. And since many people can edit the data simultaneously, this will enable us to work together easier and faster. And other than that, you can also access the application anytime, anywhere. So yun yung tagline niya, with emphasis on the location. So you don't have to be in the office or to access the application and the data. So pwede rin natin siya gamitin for field data collection using the mobile app. Ayan. And then as mentioned, GeoMapper also functions as a visualization tool in the form of dashboards. So yung inputs sa data collector can be connected to a dashboard to visualize the data updates and the data summary real time. So I will show you examples later. And then this is the template for the being used by local government units. So digitizing the polygons, the features is made easy. You just have to select a template, and then dito sa fields, ito yung data fields natin, meron ng available na drop-down options para madaling mag-input ng data at iwas sa typo errors. So this is how the application is being used by LGUs. So they update their exposure data in the platform. And then, as mentioned, this is being used by the LGUs to populate their exposure databases. So this is an example from Legazpi City, LGU, where they have uploaded their building footprints and household points. So by having the latest hazards data and your latest exposure data in one platform, we can easily and quickly identify elements at risk from the various hazards. So for example, dito, we can see the buildings that are prone or exposed to tsunami hazard. And this is what we want. This is our goal. And then this is an example from Manila City, one of the partner LGUs by CRS sa Project Shake. And then we also had a collaboration with them through the National Resilience Council And then, nag-design kami ng dashboard for them para ma-monitor nila yung, makita nila yung data updates sa layers na ni-request nila. So for example, sa fire incidents, flood reports, and so on. And then this is another GeoMapper application together with CRS, yung Caloocan City, for Caloocan City naman. And then, well, you can upload or attach photos and other files sa features. So for example dito, kung i-click natin yung building footprint na to, makikita natin yung information about that structure. And then, kung may attachment, this was done in partnership with the UP Department of Geography. So yung students nila, nag-survey sila. Ayan, and then nag-attach sila kung ano ba yung itsura nung footprint na yon, nung building footprint na yon on the ground. And then another example for Pasig City, Pateros, ay hindi siya city, sorry. SJDM, San Jose del Monte. And then another platform being used, ito naman nationwide, is the Tsunami Coping Capacity Initiatives, wherein LGUs answer a survey form that asks about their efforts and initiatives for tsunami preparedness and resilience. So yung answers nila dito are updated real-time dito sa ating dashboard wherein we could see ilan na ba yung nag-answer ng yes to having conducted tsunami evacuation drills, yung hindi pa sumasagot, ilan yung may mangrove programs na, and so on. So that's it for GeoMapper. Next, from data collection, we now move on to data analysis. So the tagline of GeoAnalytics PH is risk analysis made easy. So this is designed to assist decision makers and planners in crafting their DRR and land use plans by providing the maps and analysis using the data contributed to the system. So it has 3 services, namely land area assessment, demography or population exposure assessment, and then critical facilities. So by using the application, you are able to compute the land area prone to hazards, the estimated number of people exposed to the hazards, and the critical facilities prone to the hazards. So risk analysis is made easy because you don't have to manually compute for these in GIS because the application does the processes and calculations for you. So i-automate na natin yung process na yon. And so shown here are the hazards available for calculations in GeoAnalytics. And this is an example. So analysis can be done at the provincial level down to the barangay level. So of course, the smaller the area, the faster the loading time would be. So shown on in the screen is a sample result for the land area analysis ng flood hazard in Calapan City. So pwede kayong mag-download. You may download a list of the barangays and their corresponding land area exposed to the selected hazard. And then you also have here a chart showing the percentage of the total land area prone to the hazard. And then this is an example naman for the population exposure assessment. So using this, you could see how many people are estimated to be safe or not prone to the hazard, and then the estimated population exposed to the hazard. So you have here an age-sex pyramid showing the breakdown per male and female, and then the per susceptibility analysis. And then we want to highlight one example of the use of GeoRisk platforms by an LGU. So this was from Surigao City. So they informed us that they performed analysis using GeoAnalytics PH for their DRRM in health plan. So right now, our developers are working on the integration of inputs sa GeoMapper with the analysis done in GeoAnalytics. So para yung data inputs ng ating partner LGUs and NGAs sa GeoMapper ay magiging available, readily available for hazards analysis in GeoAnalytics. And then we now have the GeoRisk PH integrated platform. So kaka-start lang niya gamitin last month. So using this, you can register for your GeoMapper account for our partner NGAs and LGUs. And then you just have to fill in your details and your affiliation kung from ano ka ba, national agency, LGU, academe, and so on. So dito ilalagay lang yung details and then click submit. So we will receive your request for an account and then i-assess namin kung i-approve ba namin. And then once we approve it, may mare-receive kayo sa email nyo na verify account, and then once you do it, you may now access your applications for your LGU or NGA. So this is an example. And then as a way forward, ongoing ngayon yung 3D Philippines program. So this is in partnership with De La Salle University. So ano naman siya, expansion and continuation ng GeoRisk. So in 3D Philippines, we now include subsurface information. So this is the borehole locations, and then yung building footprints natin. So yun yung vision natin for this, na magkakaroon tayo ng robust exposure database na may surface information and the subsurface information. So that's it for my presentation. You may visit our YouTube channel for instructional videos on how to use the applications. And then you may reach out to us sa GeoRisk at fevox.dost.gov.ph or in our Facebook page if you would like to request the draft memorandum of agreement. And then we look forward to working with you in building our country's national exposure database. And then again, these applications are available to you for free, and I hope that you would be able to use and maximize them for the value that they bring. So thank you very much po.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hans. This information shall greatly contribute to decision making, most especially for the local government attendees here in Zoom. So this will be used in decision making and enhancing their development and advocacy plans. To our LGU attendees here, we encourage you all to begin with your exposure database by using the GeoMapper PH app. We are already seeing questions in Q&A. Continue sharing your thoughts and clarification here in Zoom and in YouTube. Questions posted will be answered later during the open forum. And now for our third speaker, she is currently the director of Yayasan Peta Betshana, or Disaster Map Foundation, a Southeast Asian-based non-profit organization working on open source tools for community-led disaster management and risk reduction. She co-led the expansion of the life-saving platform petabetshana.id from a real-time flood mapping platform serving 50 million people in Indonesia to a multi-hazard information sharing platform serving over 300 people in Southeast Asia. In 2021, she was recognized by Forbes Asia 30 Under 30 for her contributions to the region's social issues. She was also one of the 5 global semi-finalists for the prestigious Global Citizen Prize Cisco Youth Leadership Award in 2019. She was also listed as a Southeast Asian Women Leader by Wisely in 2020 and recognized as a Women Innovator by the Information Society Innovation Fund in 2018. A virtual round of applause to Ms. Nashin Matani of Yayasan Peta Betchana to introduce mapakalamidad.ph.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Good morning, everyone. Magandang umaga. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you to CRS for the invitation to share our work, and to all panelists for their incredible presentations, and to all participants for joining us today. My name is Nishin Methani. I am beaming in from Indonesia today, and I'll share a little bit about the work that our organization is conducting in developing open source tools for climate adaptation in order to provide life-saving information for everyone, every resident, and in order to facilitate greater information sharing between residents and government agencies. So please allow me to share my screen. And so as a brief introduction, Yayasan Peta Bencana, which translates to Disaster Map Foundation, is a nonprofit organization, and we grew out of Indonesia, but we're now working across the region. And we're a multidisciplinary team working with scientists, engineers, designers, artists, urban planners, geologists, focusing on building tools and technologies to support community-led disaster risk reduction in the spirit of bayanihan, or in Indonesia, as we call it, gotong royong. I also want to take a moment to introduce our Philippines field team who are joining us virtually here today as well, but who are conducting the magic in the Philippines. And hopefully you will be hearing a lot from them in the coming months. In addition to the commonality between both of our countries that of gotong royong and bayanihan, both our countries are also located in the Ring of Fire. And so I think there's this, what we found is sometimes there's a little bit of a competition who experiences the most disasters. I'm not sure that's a competition we want to have, but nonetheless, it's a common saying that we experience the full buffet of disasters. We have volcanoes, floods, typhoons, earthquakes, and every year we see headlines like this. And living in the Philippines, I'm sure that everyone here is familiar with these trends, directly experiencing that with climate change, extreme weather events are not only becoming more frequent, but they're becoming more intense. And we know that 5 of the deadliest typhoons in the Philippines have occurred in the last decade. And so with the increasing intensity of typhoons, what this means is that more water is falling in shorter periods of time, and that creates an incredible pressure on the infrastructures in our cities, which causes them to burst and break unexpectedly. And of course, this creates compounded and more destructive disasters precisely because they cannot be predicted. And that's something that we really want to point out today, is that no matter how much predictive modeling we have, events like this cannot be predicted because nothing can predict where and when a dam will break, and as a result, what failure that will cause. And this is something we cannot prevent. With climate change, we're seeing that the infrastructure failure is going to happen, but what we can do is to ensure that when unexpected events like these happen, we have the tools that we need to make decisions about safety and response in timely manner. And so we know that information is the most important resource in a disaster. And we've heard some incredible presentations today about the role of GIS information and location-based information in supporting preparedness and response. And one of the things we want to highlight that our organization focuses on is the real-time element, is that particular time, usually in the immediate aftermath of a disaster, commonly there can be an information vacuum that forms before official information can get out. where, especially in these scenarios where disasters are unexpected, there tends to be an information vacuum. And so our organization and our project focuses on this, this immediate, in the immediate aftermath of disaster, providing that information in real time. And so another incredible fact about our region is that the region we're situated in, ASEAN, is home to 625 million people and 725 million smartphones. That's 100 million more smartphones than there are people. And another competition that I know the Philippines and Indonesia have is between who spends the most time on social media. I think that's a challenge that the Philippines wins, though, although it's an active competition. But our region is home to some of the highest social media usage rates in the world. And as we see in this image here, even during the flood, even during a typhoon, even during an earthquake, people are sharing information on social media. And what this represents is a really rich and precise data source, because all of these devices that each of us are carrying with us every day are connected to two very important systems. That is a GPS network and social media networks. And this allows for the ability to share location and details of context-specific conditions. We see that people are actively sharing information about blocked roads, about community needs, about efforts for response, warning and helping each other. And we know now, especially, that this is not limited to typhoons or flooding alone. This year especially, we've seen the use of social media for people at the grassroots level to self-coordinate response. And so the question is, this is a behavior that's already occurring on social media. People are incredibly quick to update their status, to update photos when they're experiencing a disaster. And so that can fill that information gap that I mentioned previously. But the question is, how do we make use of all of this heightened use of social media during emergencies, take advantage of all of this data that's already there, but then filter, structure, and verify it quickly so that it can help recovery efforts? And so our team developed an open source software called Cognicity. And how it works is that it listens for specific keywords on social media posts. So for example, as you see on this post, one of the words we listen to is baha or flood. And these words are customizable as well. But if the software detects someone post with this keyword, we have a bot that will send an automatic response immediately within seconds to the user, asking them if they are really experiencing a flood and if they would like to submit a disaster report. Now, if the resident responds to our bot, as in this image here, the bot sends them back, again in an instant, within a second, a link to submit a flood report. And when the resident clicks that link, they're guided through a few simple steps to submit a report, which includes confirming their location or the location of the reported disaster, adding a little bit of information. So in this example, you see that they're asked to input the flood height. They can add a photo to provide further detail and description. And as soon as they submit that report is immediately plotted on a live public map in real time. And this is a map that's it's web-based, so it's a website, it's accessible, it's free, it's accessible to anybody, and it's designed to be extremely data light and mobile-centric, because we know that during disasters, the connectivity might be a little lower, and it's critical for us in the development process to make this information available to the widest variety of users. And so we test it with the most basic mobile phones that it's easy to load and easy to display. And so everyone has access to this information simply through the browsers on their mobile phones. And these are the sample. This is just a sample assortment of some of the types of observations that have been shared in the past. People are sharing information about blocked roads, about broken infrastructure, and about even sometimes when there's a blackout, they're sharing that information, sharing why the blackout occurred because an extreme wind knocked out a telephone pole. And this is incredibly useful, not only for response teams to understand where to allocate resources most critically, but also for residents in neighboring areas to understand places to avoid and places that they can help each other. And really critically, what this allows is for everybody, every resident, to more equally participate in decision-making in their communities. We say that it has democratized decision support tools because anyone has access to the same information through their mobile phones, and anyone in the city can participate in this cooperative process of sharing information and of viewing information. All of the data is also open, and so we've been in the development of the platform in the Philippines in its initial stages. We've been also working with the Office of Civil Defense, and the data collected by the platform is automatically integrated into their disaster monitoring platform called PhilaWare, so that emergency managers can view incoming resident reports in real time. And this type of integration is available for anyone to tap into. So the data is available through an open API, and it's designed to be interoperable so that anyone can use it to complement their existing platforms, their existing data sets. We understand that agencies at all levels, and including different type of agencies, have different needs for the type of data sets that they are looking for to respond most effectively. And so these are the type of just a few examples of organizations that have used our data in the past or are continuing to use it to support their own platforms. One example I would like to point out is the data collected by our platform in Indonesia was in 2020, we had historic floods in the capital city of Jakarta. It was used by NASA to validate their satellite data. And so I think the reason I point this out is that many times we get asked the question about what is the validity of crowdsourced information? How can we trust this information? And there's a lot of time that we spent in developing the platform to make sure that all of the data is verified and is accurate. And the reason I point out this example is that the data from our platform that's collected, resident submitted reports, is being used by agencies like NASA, not only to validate their satellite monitoring, but then it was also used to train their satellite algorithms. And so if we talk about trusting crowdsourced reports, we see that through many years of implementation, this is a very trusted data set. And not only that, but as disaster events become larger, as they become more challenging to manage, it's critical to involve all residents in disaster recovery efforts. And if we can tap into the knowledge and the capacity for all of these people spread all over to share their observations, that can provide such an incredibly rich source for us to use for many other applications. And so all of our data, again, is available through an open API. We welcome anyone here to please be in touch with us if you're interested to integrate it into your own platform, or for researchers or students, if you would like to use it for planning purposes or research purposes. It has been used for those in the past. It's been used by businesses as well. So please do feel free to reach out to us. One important thing I want to point out is that it's not an application. Research has shown that during disasters, people on the ground are not going to download something new. They're not going to learn something new. Instead, they're going to use what they're using with more frequency. That's why earlier in those posts, we saw that people just keep posting on social media that they're already using. They want to alert their friends and families and their networks. And so what our software does is that it takes advantage of that already high usage in social media. It doesn't insist that people have to learn something new. Instead, they can use the tools they're already using to submit a report. And right now, Mapa Calamidad can accept resident reports from Twitter, Telegram, and Facebook. And in the coming months, we'll also be expanding these to other platforms, including Instagram and Viber and WhatsApp, in addition to several more. So the pilot version of Mapa Calamidad was launched in 2020 to support real-time flood mapping in Quezon City and Pampanga. And this was a collaboration between USAID, the Pacific Disaster Center, Office of Civil Defense, and with the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team as well. And because we're very happy that the pilot project moved forward in a significant way, that this year and the coming year, we will be expanding to continue to scale this effort with growing partnerships. And the national version of the platform, where we graduate from a pilot supporting only 2 areas to a full national scale platform, will be launching in January. And so please do stay in touch, and we would love to see you all there. But in development of these programs, we're also going to be adding several new features, including to facilitate greater two-way information sharing capacities between emergency managers, first responders, and the public, as well as a dedicated channel for logistic coordination. So the ability for first responders and NGOs and LGUs as well to input logistic coordination. This will be a new feature developed specifically for Mapa Calamidad as well. We've also recently just launched a youth ambassador program to increase youth participation in disaster risk reduction. And we're happy to share more about that as well. But as we look ahead, I also want to just take a small moment to share a little of where we started, because the approach is really important to some of the history. So we started as a real-time flood map in Jakarta in 2014. In 2020, we expanded to a multi-hazard map for all of Indonesia. As I mentioned, we'll be hoping to have the national scale map for the Philippines in January. But beyond this as well, the project is not only in Indonesia, but there are multiple versions across the world, including in India, Vietnam, and Hong Kong. And this is because the software is open source. And so it's available for anyone to use, to inspect, to appropriate for their own disasters, for their own geographies. And this has been incredibly important for us to operate in an open source ecosystem. In Indonesia, we have seen that it has transformed response. The National Emergency Management Agency, as pictured here, is monitoring the map in real time to respond to resident needs. And they say that it has greatly increased response, or made response times much faster, because they're able to identify needs much more quickly from residents who are experiencing it on the ground. Because a person with a smartphone is the most effective sensor in the city, and they're the most knowledgeable about their specific needs. And so that's why our focus is really on community information sharing in order to complement other data sets. But what's been critical to our approach, and that I really want to point out, is that all of this is developed from collaborative co-research. And that's why I'm so happy with this invitation from CRS to share this with you today, because we are just at the stages of expanding and developing the platform to its full scale in the Philippines. And we're so excited to be able to share this with you at its very early stage, so that in the hopes that we can work more closely with everyone here in developing the platform, because we understand it'll be unique for each location, for each group, and we're really, really keen to work with all of you in these next efforts. And so, yeah, some of these are just the all of this ways that we work through this collaborative approach. It's right from the design and development, it's with the widest variety of stakeholder groups, to community training and empowerment. We do this together with youth organizations, with universities, with government agencies, as well as community engagement and outreach, many of which in the past, of course, took a different format, and now many of these are in a digital format, but that also affords something else because we can reach a really wide variety of people. And so we really look forward to the open forum that will follow after this, and I really hope that you will join us for the next generation of Bayanihan with the Mapa Calamidad platform. Maybe to end, if I can just play a short video that summarizes the platform.
Mapa Calamidad is a free and open source platform for disaster management for the Philippines. This video will explain how you can share flawed information by submitting a report using Facebook Messenger, Twitter, and Telegram. On Facebook, send a message to @Mapacalamidad and we'll help you input flawed information, confirm your location, add photos, and describe the situation. Then, we'll put your report on the map and send you a link to share with your friends. On Twitter, tweet #flawed to @Mapacalamidad so we can help you make a report. Then, we'll send you a link so you can see and share your report. On Telegram, text /flood to CalamidadBot and CalamidadBot will help you make a report. However you report, check mapacalamidad.ph to see up-to-date flood information. When we share what we see, everyone can stay informed to avoid danger and reduce risk together. Visit mapacalamidad.ph to get started.
And I just have one more, and just a note from the pilot site that we worked on in the initial launch.
In this modern time, the incorporation of technology in disaster management, especially in disaster response, will greatly help in the prompt and efficient response to our kabalens during the rainy season when flooding remains a main issue for the province. The use of social media through this platform will promote our community-based disaster management approach. This will highlight the importance of the participation of each citizen in making Pampanga a disaster-resilient province.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will end there.
Thank you very much, Ms. Nashin, for another informative discussion. Indeed, this app is vital during disaster events, especially that we always experience flooding, particularly during typhoon season, and how social media platforms serve as good information source and platform. And this is also helpful in how each and every one of us can contribute to the safety of neighbors and responders in times of disaster. Again, you can reach out to Mapa Calamidad by sending them an email at bayanihan@mapacalamidad.ph or by connecting with them in Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To our audience, please keep on sending questions and clarification about mapacalamidad.ph or with our previous speakers. Kindly post them in the Q&A. We are now down to our last but definitely not the least speaker. His interest in map, particularly its use in disaster context, made him join in humanitarian OpenStreetMap team in Indonesia in 2012 as a mapping assistant volunteer in Jakarta Mapping Project. He led the HOT Indonesia team for 1 year as a country manager before he joined the Open Mapping Hub in the Asia Pacific as a disaster service manager in 2021. Currently, he is working to support, assist, and connect the local communities and partners in disaster management on disaster mapping using OpenStreetMap and open source technologies to increase the disaster resilience and reduce disaster impact through data-driven decision-making. Join me in welcoming Mr. Hari Mahardika to introduce Open Mapping Hub Asia Pacific Disaster Services and to discuss about the OpenStreetMap.
Hello everyone. Thank you for the kind introduction. Magandang umaga. Good morning for all of you. And my name is Hari Mahardika. You can call me Hari. And I'm really appreciate the opportunity that the GRS team has given to me to promote some of our works at the Open Mapping Hub Asia Pacific. For that, let me allow me to share my screen. So I am assuming that you all can see my screen now. Maybe someone can confirm.
I'm seeing your presentation.
Okay, thank you. So in today's presentation, there are 3 main topics that I would like to share with all of you. First, about my organization, Open Mapping Hub Asia Pacific. Then I will follow by OpenStreetMap and how it has been used in my organization works, especially in disaster management. Last but not least, I will share about the potential activity that we could working together in the future. So basically the Open Mapping Hub, as mentioned, is a regional representative of humanitarian OpenStreetMap team, or we call it HOT, a non-profit organization that use OpenStreetMap for humanitarian purposes through technology, community participation, and capacity development in the Asia Pacific. Our presence is to make sure that we could give more effective and efficient support and give a space to the community who interest to use OSM for their works. At the Open Mapping Hub, we have a vision to create a sustainable ecosystem of OpenStreetMap community in the Asia Pacific. For our long-term aspiration, we would like to see OpenStreetMap is used by all actors as one of their data in planning and decision-making. And also we want to see no more underrepresented community, because we hope all of them will actively involve in the OSM movement. Last but not least, we want to see OpenStreetMap as one of the go-to data source and services among the people for humanitarian, economic, and even entrepreneurial activities. And as a way to achieve those aspirations and vision, Open Mapping Hub has several approaches, start from identify, recognize, and nurture and collaborate with all important and key actors in the regional level. We also will actively promote the use of OSM data to address and solve some of the challenges and make Hub as a regional public good to bring data, technology, and people together where they all could share their benefits. So I think that's my quick introduction about my organization and in general works that we are going to do in the regional Asia Pacific. Now I'm going to share with you about what is OpenStreetMap and how it has been used in our works in disaster management. So maybe in the very beginning of this session, you already know that there is a lot of type of maps, and OpenStreetMap is one of the example of digital map. So it's an online map, so where people could contribute on it by adding or editing object in their area of their interest. And also we can use OpenStreetMap in our particular mapping project, and the collected data and information we also could be used in various analysis. So basically to access the OpenStreetMap, you need to connect to the internet, and also you can add some of your interest object in your particular area. that you want to map. And speaking of OpenStreetMap and why this is pretty much important to to do some analysis or for even for the disaster management, because as you can see in the slide, this is a comprehensive yet also a simple example about how map completeness could be used for different stages of disaster analysis. So in general, the more we complete the map in OpenStreetMap, the more and deep analysis that we could do by it. For example, at the very beginning, if there is no data, there is no map, and there is no analysis, and so on. So you could see that OpenStreetMap is essential to provide all the facts and information on the field. It all started, of course, by learning how to map OpenStreetMap and use some of the tools that could support you on the mapping activity. And later, I will talking about some of the tools that developed by HOT. So after we know how to get and collect the data, we do the data collection, or we also doing the call it mapping activity, both remotely and on the field, and upload all the data that we collected into OpenStreetMap. Then we could download those data that we need using also one of the tools that HOT developed to create some of disaster analysis or maps, such as evacuation route map, shelter location map, and also critical infrastructure location and capacity map. So there is a lot of maps that we could create using OSM data. But this is also one of highlight that I want to share with you. OSM itself could not really resolve all the disaster analysis or disaster problem, because it should supposed to be also combined with other data sources. For example, for hazard data that maybe we also have seen we can get from the government, from the map hunter, or maybe from our friend from Mapa Calamidad, or for our research. And if we could combine OSM data with all of those data, we could be use OSM in wider disaster management analysis. For instance, if we combine them with the real-time or update resolution imagery, we could make a disaster impact analysis for infrastructures, building, roads, and even for the land use. Hazard or risk data is also essential to be combined with OSM data. So if we could get those data, we could produce damage assessment or disaster impact scenario, or even real event impact for particular disaster in particular affected areas. And if we have demographic data that maybe we could get from the social government agency, we also could produce a capacity or even vulnerability map, as well as disaster impact based on the population group, such as age, gender, and socioeconomy. So this is the graph that shows you how OSM, if we combine with all of the other data resources, could be very beneficial to create more deep analysis regarding the disaster management. Now, if we're talking about one of our works at the Open Mapping Hub, which is disaster service, you will see there are three main words in our main purpose: to support, assist, and connect. So there is no lead word in our purpose, because we really want to see the local actors and community could actively and have an initiative to use OSM, HOT tools, and other open source technology in disaster management activities. Forward, of course, to increase their resilience and reduce the impact of disaster through data-driven decision making. So in general, we have three areas where we are working in disaster service at the Hub: technology advancement, disaster mapping, and community development. So I have told you that HOT has developed some of the tools to enhance the experience mapping in OpenStreetMap to make it more efficient and effective. So in this slide, we have tools. One is called Tasking Manager. This is the most effective tool to conduct mass mapping in OpenStreetMap. With Tasking Manager, we can conduct more than one mapping project and engage hundreds of mappers to contribute at a particular area at the same time without overlapping their mapping works. We also have OSM Analytics, where used to get some quick statistic and analysis of our mapping progress in particular mapping project in Tasking Manager or areas. And the next tools, we have also have a tools called Map Campaigner. This is tools usually aim to help you manage your mapping project by showing the progress of the mapping efforts. For example, you have a mapping in particular area, the percentage of your mapping completeness in that area, as well as the information that you really want to collect it on the field. So how completed they are, and you can also monitoring them using these tools. We also have an export tools. So this is also the popular tools that you can use it to download or extract the data in OSM, both that you have collected on the field or the one that already existed in the particular area. You also could set which type of object and information that you want to download using these tools. So you don't have to download for the whole country or download whole the object, even you only want to download the schools. So you can do that using these export tools. This is not hot tools actually, but this is the advanced tools that we usually combine with OSM data to create map or even doing the spatial analysis, because we support the open source technology. So we're using QGIS as a GIS software in our works. So GIS is a free and open source software for spatial processing and analysis. And for disaster, particularly, it has a plugin on it called INASAFE that also we could learn, and it could help us to create impact scenario for particular disaster in particular area. Some of the example maybe you can see on the slide. So yeah, we usually doing that to advancing the analysis after we collected data on the field. And there is a tools, technology, and advancement that we at Hub doing, and also we doing the disaster mapping, of course. Disaster mapping activity at the Hub are divided into two types. So remote and field survey. Usually remote mapping involve more people to gather initial exposure data, and collect initial exposure data, such as building footprints and road networks. And usually this conduct for disaster response. So whenever disaster happen, we launch a tasking manager, and we asking our community regionally, even global, to help to map those affected areas. And usually doing also for disaster recovery, where field survey focusing on collect the specific information on the field about the particular or specific object, and it involves more local community and people to do so. So because they have the local knowledge, what this kind of object and what kind of information they really know on the field. Usually this kind of local mapping we conducted for preparedness and also for mitigation. Even though it's not really limited only on that, we can also doing that on the response activity as well. So this is an example of hot project in disaster preparedness with the collaboration with Pacific Disaster Center, or PDC. The project were conducted in two countries, Indonesia and Philippines, where we working together with disaster management agency in each country to map the critical infrastructure object and the prone areas, then upload it into OpenStreetMap. The data, besides it's uploaded into OpenStreetMap, also integrated into disaster-aware tools that developed by the PDC. And also, those tools are already installed in the government office and used for disaster monitoring platform. In the Philippines, the tools, it's called PhilAware. So this is also one of the products from the project of PhilAware, where Hub created the maps in several areas for the local government that shows location and distribution of critical infrastructure in particular area. So through this map, we can see how many hospitals that we have, how many schools that might be affected in this kind of area. So this kind of information are important to see how good the capacity of the area to handle the impact of disaster, just in case they also affected by it, as well as determine what should be, we could improve on the area to increase the capacity, and as well as reducing the vulnerability of the area. And this is another example of disaster response mapping. So just as we launched the tasking manager project, for the recent Semeru eruption in Indonesia. Since we launched the tasking manager last week, the affected areas have been mapped more than 50% by whole the OSM mapper community, not only in Indonesia, but globally. Next example is also related to the disaster response mapping in 2018. As you can see, we also use one of the tools that I have been mentioned. We use OSM Analytic to create a simple animation before and after for the mapping activity in the affected area. So this animation we could also use to create a report or showing to the public how far we have come to mapping some of area in our project. And one example about how the data have been mapped into OSM could be used in real needs of disaster management is for disaster recovery. So this is a example, a building and road damage map in affected area. So the map could help give information about how many buildings and road affected and also their distribution. So the government and other related organizations could create a strategy or a policy to make a recovery process become more efficient and really on target. So this is only one example that after we collect the data on the OSM and upload it, so how we use the data. So this is one of the example how we can use the data. And if you still remember that I talked about QGIS and INASAFE, so this is also one of the example of the output of the INASAFE itself. So here's the example how if we combine the hazard or risk data with the exposure data, and we also can create estimation of affected population in our project areas. So this is an example that I took with our project in Indonesia with GRAB to collecting some of the refugee location and Arjun in the Agung volcano in Bali. Other examples that I will show you is about how the OSM it's not only used in creating a map, but also the OpenStreetMap itself is used as a base map in several disaster monitoring platforms. This is a very good example, and because we also have a representative of Mapa Calamidad here. The team of Peta Bencana and Mapa Calamidad use OpenStreetMap as their base map, and combining with their crowdsourcing disaster report. So obviously it will give you some information such as where the disaster happened until a very detail of administration level, what critical infrastructure affected, and all the things that have been explained by our colleagues for Mapa Calamidad. So in general, the more complete the map that you create in OpenStreetMap, the more useful the information that could be shown by Mapa Calamidad and Peta Bencana. And next example is from the Nationwide Operation Assessment of Hazard Project, or called NOAA, from the University of Philippines. So they also use OpenStreetMap as a base map, and combine in their website, they combine in with the risk data. By their research, they have the risk data for various hazards to give the risk level in particular area, as well as some of the first action that we should take or know what the nearest infrastructures around us. So again, OpenStreetMap could be really beneficial if we could really working together and combining those data, especially for exposure data that we collected in OpenStreetMap with all of the data that we have from another sources. And for capacity development, we also aware that a good project is the one that sustainable. So meaning it could be either replicated or scaled up in other areas. Therefore, by increasing their skills and capacity, particularly in OpenStreetMap mapping and how to use the data through some of our training and workshop programs, it would create sustainability in the upcoming years for the community. So they don't have really rely on hub every time they want to conduct the mapping, because they already have the capacity. I think that's something that we also want to achieve in our long-term vision, just like I've been mentioning in the early of this presentation. We also aim to provide a learning resource where everyone could access, learn, and share the material to the other people for free. So what's next? So I think Open Mapping Hub Asia Pacific, we could working together and we could support you in a various type of activities, starting from building capacity through mapping training until how to download the data that you have been collected on the field. Also, we could support your mapping project using one or some of our tools and integrate them, if possible, into your own platform, as well as to compile and analyze the information and disseminate them to the public goods. And as have been mentioned earlier about how to local community involve, how to involve community in most of our project and collaboration so far. So in the Philippines, this is a very good news for the Philippines, because in the Philippines we have a relatively strong and a very various OSM communities, both from professional and academic sectors, that could also be involved in our future work. So instead we directly working with Hub, we can also involve some of the local organization to, working with us in our future collaboration as well. So I think, salamat. I think that's it from my presentation today. I'm really happy can share some of the things with all of you. And if you have a question or, comments or anything that you want to say later after the session, you can email me through my email, and also can email through the whole team at the Open Mapping Hub Asia Pacific. Thank you very much for your attention, and good morning.
Thank you very much, Sir Harley. And that is very interesting presentation. I hope our audience here got hooked about the programs of Open Mapping Hub, where they can collaborate with your projects and provide trainings and resources. And for those interested mappers out there, we encourage you to join the local open mapping communities presented and to learn a lot from them. And now we will proceed with the open forum. So I would like to invite again our speakers and to thank everyone for sharing their questions. And to facilitate the open forum, let me introduce to you my colleague in Catholic Relief Services, Marcel Ruiz. Marcel is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Community Development from the University of the Philippines, Diliman. She was more than 18 years of experience working with various sectors, such as with handicraft producers organizations, cooperative, urban poor communities, local government units, and national government agencies. In 2010, she started focusing on disaster risk reduction and management and climate change adaptation projects. Currently, she is implementing community-based disaster risk reduction and management at the barangay, reviewing and updating of various DRRM plans at the municipal level, and formulating interagency strategies at the regional level. Let me invite here in the spotlight, Marcel.
Thank you very much, Ben, and thank you for all of our speakers for giving us a very fruitful inputs. So I hope we're not overwhelmed with the inputs provided. So we have so far 10 questions received here from the chat box, from the Q&A box rather. So for the ones that will be using the applications, unlike with Mapa Calamidad, it's a platform, but with the apps like the GeoRisk PH, are these apps available for both iOS and Android?
Ayan. Good morning po. So yes, the applications, well, Hazard Hunter has its mobile app available in the Google Play Store and Apple App Store. But if you don't have the data to download the mobile app, you may also access the browser mode of Hazard Hunter. So you just have to enter the URL in your mobile device. For GeoMapper PH, we also have a mobile app for that, using the platform by Esri. And so that's part of the lectures in the trainings we conduct for LGUs on how to use both the web app and the mobile app. And I saw another question there with regard to offline access. Using for GeoMapper, there is an offline capability, but during surveys, we recommend that if possible, that we conduct an online survey instead. But it's also possible to conduct offline use of the app.
And in connection to that, will this use large internet data if you use the apps?
Well, for Hazard Hunter, it's light on the data. It also depends on how you use the application, because you may access the hazard layers in the map. So if you turn on all the layers and then keep on navigating in different locations, of course, it would consume data, but these are already light for data consumption. So whether you turn on, you don't have to turn on the hazard layers to conduct assessments. You just have to double click or double tap on the site you want to assess, and then it would generate the hazard assessment results. So it's simple to use.
Thank you very much, Sir Hans. How about
Thank you.
Sir Harry for OSM?
Yeah, thank you. I think for OpenStreetMap itself, if you want to, map in OpenStreetMap, you also need the data for the internet connection to map, especially if you're using the browser editor. So browser editor meaning that you could directly access to OpenStreetMap website, and you just log in with your account, and you can directly edit the area that you want to map. It needs a data connection, but if you're talking about do we need a strong connection, I think it's depend on the location and how many data that already mapped before we edited the data, because it's supposed to be load. But there is also alternative. Maybe it's a little bit more technical, but in our training later, you could also use, it's called editor called Java OpenStreetMap. It's a software that you need to install in your computer or laptop, and you can download the data first, the area that you want to map, and you can download it first whenever you have a good internet connection. And later you can save it just like a Word document, and you can digitize it offline. And later, if you have finished, you can upload it again whenever you connect it to the good connection. So yes, I think that's hopefully could answer some of the question of the question that related to whether the OSM needs data internet or not. Yeah, relatively it needs.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Harry and Sir Hans. Yes. And for Mapa Calamidad, someone is asking how can we access the data? I've tried this platform in Facebook, but does this have like a database that they can access, or how they access these data that individuals update?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for the question. So the data is accessible in a few ways. If you just want to see the real-time reports, you just visit the website mapacalamidad.ph, and that's for general use, and it's targeted for anyone to use during that time of flooding. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier is that because it is a real-time map, the reports will expire. So like if it's flooding right now and I submit a report, it's 11 o'clock, by 2 o'clock, that report will no longer be on the map, and this is to keep it real time. But access to the historical data is available through our API, and that is definitely something you can reach out to us for. We have the full documentation of accessing the data is also available online. So anyone is able to pull that data through an API to access past data, and then you can use that and download it into applications like QGIS, etc., for further processing. So that's the second way, and the third way is direct automatic real-time integration also through the API. And that's the example that was previously shared with PhilaWare. So if I submit a report right now to Mapa Calamidad, it not only appears in Mapa Calamidad, it also appears on the PhilaWare platform because there's a direct integration in real time. So there's a few different ways for that.
So we can just download this data provided real time or after some time.
If you want to, the real-time integration is available through an API. So you would just connect the API to our API. And if you would like to download historical data, that's also available through the API.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Nasheen. And another question, because this is one of the concerns that come up during our orientation with Mapa Calamidad. Is there a direct link to the city or municipality concerned so that they can be alerted on how to respond if they receive or can they receive alarms when someone puts some input in the Mapa Calamidad platform?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question because that's actually upcoming. It's a feature being developed and will be launched by middle of next year. So anyone will be able to sign up to receive notifications within their areas or their municipalities and receive, as soon as someone submits something, they'll receive a notification and you can check the map for further details. So yes, it's upcoming. Please stay tuned so you can sign up for those as well.
Thank you very much. That would be really helpful, no, for the cities and municipalities. Okay. And they are also asking, I'll just lump this together for Mapa Calamidad. Do you have any other information besides flooding? Do you have, can they also input earthquake information or landslide information?
So at the moment, we're just starting in the Philippines and it's just being launched for flooding, but we definitely, with this trajectory that it'll be expanded to other hazards, the most immediate one we're looking to is earthquakes, but then to all of the full range as well that the Philippines is exposed to, as we did in Indonesia as well.
Okay. So we will be looking forward to those developments. That would be a really great help for the local government units, especially, and also for some individuals who are very concerned with their hazard-prone areas. And maybe for all of you, in terms of hazard risk assessments, do any of the available technologies or platforms mentioned provide historical data on hazard occurrence? And how far back do you have this information? And can this be used for probabilistic analysis or hazard occurrence probability analysis? I think Namria can answer this one because you have a very, you are the repository of these maps. Ms. Paz?
Yes, Marcel, good morning. Thank you for the participants. For the question, the data that is in the portal is the Ready project data, and then most of these hazard data are with the mandated agencies. So I think Hans can add to that.
Okay. Thank you, Ma'am Paz. Well, for Hazard Hunter PH, the historical data that you may view are the earthquake plots. So there's an option there to filter the data by date. So you may specify what months or year that you want to view to be displayed on the map. But for the historical events like flooding, landslides, you might, it's better to reach out to the agencies that conduct the mapping for them. So what's available in the platform are the hazard maps. So we don't have the historical occurrence of the events there. But you may also access the AI generated flood hazard maps of of DOST-ASTI. So, well, in a way that it would be a historical picture of the flooding event for the area. So, thank you po. Okay. Ma'am Marcel, you're on mute po.
I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you, Miss Paz and Miss Hans. Sir Hans. So thank you for the reminder. And Sir Harry and Miss Nashin, anything have to add to that?
For the historical data?
Yeah.
So as I have been mentioned that OpenStreetMap is more focusing on, collect the exposure data and critical infrastructure data on the field, on the map. So we could, there is a tools that we, possible to see the progress of mapping in particular areas. But if you download the data using one of our tools, you will be downloaded the newest data that are already available on that particular area. But again, like I said, if we could get the hazard data, or even better, the historical of hazard data in those areas, and we could see, so from time to time, whether the affected population or critical infrastructure, whether they increase or they're reducing. If they're increased, there is something wrong with the disaster management in those kind of areas. So I think, again, the OSM data could be really beneficial to understand how the disaster situation on particular area, situation, and again, it's to complete all of our analysis. So I think that's my question regarding the historical data. So thank you.
And Ms. Nashin, yes?
Yes, so the Mapa Calamidad web platform is really focused on real-time information, but as mentioned earlier, the historical data is available to download from any point, but Mapa Calamidad was just launched last year in the 2 pilot sites. So right now, our data sets are just starting, and hopefully they'll continue to grow, especially with the expansion in the beginning of next year.
Okay, thank you very much. And with all of these platforms and tools, or maybe for the apps, is there a plan? Are you talking to each other? How can we make this? Is there a possibility to make this as one platform or one application? Is there a possibility with that? Maybe for Ms. Nashin and Sir Harry, since it's open mappings, platforms and apps. Yes, sir.
As I've been mentioned, so I think we've been working together, especially in Indonesia with Peta Bencana, also in a project that I mentioned about PhilAware with the Pacific Disaster Center. So like I said, that if we could really complete the map of OpenStreetMap, and later it will be used as a base map of Peta Bencana. So for example, like this one, if there is a flood happen in Peta Bencana, you can report your area flooded, and your area also you can give the detail of the administration under village. There is in Indonesia there is a village level, and under village level there are more detail level of administration, something like that. So if those kind of administration level have been mapped in OpenStreetMap, and you can give more detailed report through Peta Bencana. But again, if there is no data, or maybe if your area it's only mapped, let's say for the district level, district administration, you don't have a village level. So in Peta Bencana, you can only report by your district level, but it's not very logical because it's not logical that whole district flooded. Maybe it's very small area in your places. So again, if we collaborating together, so that's why we're working with Peta Bencana so far, including in the PDC and PhilAware project, because we could complementary each other. And later, if the OSM map is really completed in particular area, Peta Bencana team can working and developing their platform to give you more detailed information. So you could also use and integrate it with the local disaster management agency. And I think that's we are doing so far in Indonesia. Yes, Nashin? So maybe Nashin can add some from his side.
Yeah. I think Masari spelled it out quite well. Like the benefit here, I think there as you also accurately point out, both in Indonesia and the Philippines, we see there's like a whole assortment of different applications for disaster management, and I think each of them definitely has a specific focus, and each of them is used by specific agencies to do specific things. For example, PhilaWare is very much dedicated for emergency managers. The layers of information it has there is far more extensive than the layers that we have in Mapa Calamidad, but there is a reason for that, and that is the use of the platform. And so Mapa Calamidad is intended as a real-time information sharing platform for residents, and that's why it's data light, and it's designed to consider what is the critical pieces of information that residents need to make decisions, and what is the critical piece of information that government agencies need to share with residents to facilitate that real-time two-way communication. But since all of these platforms have their unique sort of niche information and like usage, I think what would enrich all of them is, and why we work in an open data and open source framework, is that even if there are LGUs or government agencies who are in need of richer data sets, they're able to pull from us through the open data and complement that. And I think that as we move forward to like greater challenges, more complicating challenges, that will be essential, so that information sharing through open data, it becomes the norm, that it's available for anyone to use. And so, yeah, that's really the direction we hope collectively our full region can move towards, is the ability to share information, so that even though we have different platforms for our different agencies, that it's not competing information, it's not acting on different information, it's not, one of the main challenges like here is when there's a response, there will be like 10 bags of rice sent and like no water or something like that. And so like, how do we avoid that by facilitating greater coordination, is through information sharing that's open, that people can share with each other, and the response can be far more effective and dedicated.
Thank you for those inputs, Ms. Nasheen and Sir Harry. As for the government side, do we have one application that they can use? I think this has been done in Redas. So yeah, so for NAMRIA and PVOX, is there already a collaboration that we can look at different hazards or different disaster-prone areas in just one application?
Hello. Okay, I'll go ahead. Well, for hazards information, we do it via Hazard Hunter. So we've already had requests from NGOs and other companies, and even also agencies requesting for the API in Hazard Hunter. So we enable access so that they may use the hazard assessment capability in their own applications, and then we are open to collaboration. So many of our partnerships are with NGOs, like now with CRS and then USAID. So yeah, just reach out to us and let us know the possible areas of collaboration, and we would gladly support that.
Do you have any addition to that, Ms. Paz?
Yeah. In addition to that, I think collaboration is already like happening. For example, for the hazard producing agencies to produce their hazard maps, they need the base maps that is produced by NAMRIA. And then I think what's important, and I think it's already being started by the GRISC PH, is standardization of on how this data should be integrated, or how this data should talk to each other. I think that's important, and I think it's being already it started with by the Juris PH. That's why it's also a collaborative project that we started, the FIBOX, NAMRIA, PD, MGB, and PAG-ASA. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for that. And I think there is one very technical question. Where is that? And before, I'll look for that. But for Mapa Calamidad, what steps are you taking to make this initiative sustainable? Is the current projects right now donor funded, or are you looking at this to continue and to be done in a very long time?
Yes, thank you so much for the question. So just to give a little bit of history, our project in Indonesia actually started as a research project in 2014. And seeing the success of it, we established an NGO in 2017 for this specific reason, to be able to continue it on a long-term basis. And so far, it has been funded by donors, yes, including for Mapa Calamidad. But in establishing the NGO, it has also allowed us to develop a more diverse set of relations, and we're hoping to have a more diverse set of funding streams, including with local businesses, governments, and that's definitely one of our focus areas. But our project started in 2014. We've been running since then in Indonesia, and in the Philippines, it's implemented in 2020, and we hope it will carry through in a similar long-term trajectory. But definitely that is the goal, not as a one-off short-term project. We really hope to see this co-ownership develop in the same way in the Philippines as it has here, where there's a sense of ownership from the community members who are using it, including the government agencies, and so that there would be a contribution from that as well. But yeah, for sure, an avenue we are focusing on.
Okay, that's wonderful news. For everyone, we'll have the last question. How can we get in touch with you, or how do we start partnerships with your agencies? Maybe you can answer one by one. We'll start with Ms. Paz and Sir Hans and Nasheen, and then Sir Harry.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot to to place my contacts in my PowerPoint presentation. I was so excited. All right. This is my first webinar, by the way. That's why I'm very nervous. But then I will type in the chat box the contact, our contact details or NAMRIA, or you could just visit www.namria.gov.ph there, and then you can also chat in our website, and then someone storing that, and then you should be answered right away with your queries. That's all. And then we are very open, and then we are pushing for the open data, that the public could access data without sending any requests. But then we were going there. I'm happy to announce that we are doing what we are doing in NAMRIA to go there on that open data platform, where you no longer send these requests. You just click on the GeoPortal, and then you can download freely the data. But we need the cooperation of other agencies that is contributing to that portal. We cannot do it alone. Of course, we cannot open the data for them. It's up to them to tell us that the data is open, that can be freely accessed by the public. So yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Ms. Paz. Sir Hans?
Hi, so thank you again. Well, for if you have questions or you have you want to reach out for collaboration, just send us an email at grisk@fivox.dost.gov.ph, and you may send your emails there, and then you may also send us a letter addressed to USEC Solidum if you want for a formal collaboration, and then our Facebook page is also open for queries, so we monitor that, and then well, also in relation to what Ms. Paz said, we would be glad to support that. So as for GRISC, we're like the stewards or the platform providers. So as soon as when we secure the approval of the data owners, we would be glad to support the initiatives of NAMRIA for the open data platform in PGP. So yeah, it's grisk@fivox.dost.gov.ph. So thank you po.
Yes, Ms. Nasheen?
Yes, I will drop it in the chat as well, but please feel free to connect with us on social media, Facebook or Twitter, Mapa Calamidad, or contact us via email at bayanihan@mapacalamidad.ph. You can contact me directly if you would like as well at nasheen@batabanchana.id. I've sent it in the box. And then earlier, I just want to add, earlier we saw comment about collaborations with universities, and this also extends to anyone. Yes, definitely, that is an area of our focus, especially as we launch a youth ambassador program, not only for DRR, but also we're keen to collaborate more with universities for research. This also extends to, if you would like to contact us for data integration or for trainings, we conduct open trainings for organizations, for any LGUs or barangays or any organizations, universities. Please feel free to reach out as well.
And Sir Harry?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, similar with others, I think you can directly reach me through my email, and also email the organization. I have write down the email on the chat box, and also I'm aware that most of the Filipino also are still actively using Facebook. So if you want to reach out to us in our social media, you could reach out us to our Facebook group in Open Mapping Asia Pacific, and also I add Slack and also Skype of my account, so you can directly chat through me if you would like to having a follow-up conversation from this activity. So thank you and salamat.
Thank you very much. Another technology problem here. So we have a very fruitful morning, very so many information that we have to absorb, but definitely we are very interested to be in partnership with actually the 4 organizations right now that we're talking to. And maybe you have announcements to make, any upcoming activities for each organization. Maybe you can also include that in the chat box, announce that in the chat box. And for the other questions, unfortunately, we are short of time, but you can directly contact our speakers. They already provided their contact information. You can ask them directly of any other details that you want to know. So thank you very much. The question and answer part is very active, and thank you very much for the participants. I will now turn back the floor to Ms. Benj. Good morning.
Let us all again give a virtual round of applause to our speakers, Ms. Paz, Mr. Hans, Ms. Nashin, and Mr. Hari, and of course to Marcel for moderating the open forum. Thank you once again for joining us virtually. So we learned that all these digital tools and application or platforms, or even Community Hub, are all useful for development, preparedness, response, recovery, and rehabilitation work. This is basically essential in all DRRM thematic phases. We hope that our audience from the local government units, students and academe, non-government organizations would take this opportunity to maximize and use the digital tools that we have presented in your DRRM programs. Your contribution to the open mapping application would be of great help to provide easy access to social and community services. And to close the event for today, may we call on the Head of Programming of Catholic Relief Services, Ms. Chin Nobleza. Ms. Chin spent more than 18 years in development work, with 9 years in CRS, managing and implementing a wide range of projects from agriculture and livelihood, disaster risk reduction, youth development, and to COVID-19 response to vulnerable families. She has a solid monitoring, evaluation, and accountability and learning experience as a manager for 4 years and has a variety of business development experiences in different capacities, including needs assessment, proposal development, and leveraging results. Let us all welcome Ms. Chin Nobleza.
Thank you very much, Benj. I didn't know that kind of introduction was to be provided. Good noon, good afternoon, good morning to everybody. We have come to an end to this learning event. We hope that the technical and exciting presentations were able to give you more appreciation of the importance of participatory mapping, technology, information, as we move towards being more and more resilient in the country. With this, we would like to share our deep appreciation to the speakers for your time. Ms. Paz, Sir Hans, Nashin, nice to meet you again. Harry, thank you so much. We know that you have very busy schedules, but you really spent your time with us this morning in this very important learning event. I would also like to share our appreciation to the CRS-DRR team. We have Marcel here, Benji, Rox, and the rest who are so proactive in creating these learning events. I was with them last week and we had a really good reflection session, and they are always committed to be the bridge. You know, if there are collaborations and complementation, do not hesitate to reach out to the CRS-DRR team, as they are really committed to bridge and coordinate and collaborate any initiatives on DRR. Maraming salamat po. Finally, to the colleagues who stayed on, our participants, close to 200 participants, both in Zoom and also in YouTube. Maraming salamat po. CRS is one with you in achieving our mission to ensure that our communities and households are more prepared and resilient in the face of disasters. So with this, keep on learning. Learning is not the end. You know, we keep on learning as we go along, as we as we grow older. Let's keep on learning, because in development work, we know our vision is to find better ways to make the Philippines more resilient than ever before. Maraming salamat and have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat, Ms. Chi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again for our speakers.
Thank you.
For audience and participants who would need a certificate of attendance for this event, please click the link that will be provided in the chat box and in YouTube comment section. We would love to hear from you. Please watch out for more learning events in 2022 with CRS and OCD. On behalf of Catholic Relief Services and our partner for this event, OCD NCR, and Project Shake team, we thank everyone for attending this learning event. This is your host, Benjamin Mendoza, and have a safe and have a safe day, everyone. Thank you.
Nashin, thank you. Good to see you. Bye. Salamat lahat.